Hey, this is Jaryd Krause, host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast. And in this episode, I'm speaking with Doron Wolfberg from Cleverse.com. And this episode is jam-packed with great due diligence checks and growth strategies specifically for content sites. Now, Doron and I specifically talk about what to check throughout due diligence on content sites to actually ensure that each website business or content site we're buying has traffic scalability. We also discuss why it can be bad to have a lot of backlinks on your site that you're actually buying. And I know that can be quite controversial, but I think it's a very interesting topic and has a lot of merit here. We also shift our focus to diversifying risks in content sites. And we talk about a way that most content site owners are not doing in diversifying their risk. And it can actually be an easy win with little work. And lastly, Doron leaves us with two great pieces of parting advice for first-time website buyers, which I personally think is something everyone should know. So make sure you listen all the way to the end. Hope you enjoy, guys. Today's episode is brought to you by Investors Club. Investors Club is a marketplace for serious buyers interested in proven businesses that aren't listed anywhere else. There is a free membership where you can get access to 14-day-old listings and can purchase due diligence reports for $47 each. Or if you become a paid member, you can get instant access to every single listing, unlimited due diligence reports, no fee escrow services, access to exclusive offers from Investor Club partners, and priority support. Now, sellers do sign a 2-month exclusivity agreement to only list with Investors Club. There are no purchase fees or commission, meaning the seller nor the buyer ever pay commission in any deal. And every due diligence report provides next level metrics to make sure due diligence is far less time consuming, making it quicker for you to seal the deal. Also, Investors Club have a great Q&A support available both for buyers and sellers. I'm a full member myself personally, and a lot of thought and effort has gone into this service. However, there are a limited amount of seats for this membership, so go and check them out at that URL, investors.club. That is investors.club. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Buying Online Businesses podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Doron Wolfberg. And Doron is a website buyer. I got you on because you've got some experience buying some sites. You've also had some hiccups as well, much to all of us in the online business space, or any entrepreneur for that matter. So you've bought a couple of sites. You had a bit of an experience with your first site. And like you said, failure is always fun. And you learnt quite a lot because something happened with your first site. Tell me a little bit more about your experience buying your first site and what you actually learnt.
My very first site, it was a recipe site I bought from Flippa in 2000. I think it was late 2016. And it was a recipe site monetized with AdSense. And back at the day, we bought it at 2-year multiples, so like 24x on monthly profit. And it was considered expensive at the time. Kind of funny to see where we are today. But anyway, we bought the site, and then within just 2 weeks after we bought it, we just noticed like decrease in AdSense earning. And we couldn't really understand what was going on. The seller, which it seemed like a legit guy, he didn't know. What ended up happening is that in early 2017, Google changed something in the AdSense algorithm, and they basically were just paying publishers less. And it was like a 40% decrease. And we just found out just through talking to other site owners, looking at, reading blogs and stuff like that. So that literally happened 2 weeks within buying the website. And then, you're down 40% on your investment already. And then you have to figure out solutions and other growth strategies. So it was quite challenging.
Yeah, so what did you learn in that experience? Like what did you take away from your experience in buying a site from Flippa? Do you think it was something to do with your due diligence? Probably not due to, algorithm changes. You can't really, they just happen. And then what did you do to change things around?
So, yeah, it's a good question. So first of all, due diligence wise, obviously it was the first site, and going back, I would do things a bit differently, at least for the first site. I might look at the site that has some more diversified monetization, maybe like part affiliate and then part, ad display. We've seen, for example, on my sites, with the whole COVID situation going on, ad display rate went down initially because advertisers, they were reluctant to put in budget, but affiliate sales soars because people were buying more online. So having that kind of diversity, I think that's always a better strategy than just one monetization source. To turn things around, we started looking for alternatives to AdSense. We found that, for example, we could use Ezoic, Mediavine. Later on, I found, there's also opportunities like AdThrive. And then turned the site to Ezoic. That pretty much covered the drop in AdSense rate. Ezoic did much better than AdSense. We're able to recover most of that decrease in earning, kind of stabilize the site. A lot of things went wrong. It was just one of those sites where you buy, nothing really comes right. Like, I think 3 months after that, we got a manual penalty for schema markup, which is something pretty rare. If so, for readers that don't know, schema markup, for especially if you have a recipe site, so there's those recipe reviews, right, that have some kind of structured data in them, where you can say like the time that it takes to cook the recipes, the ingredients. And so that has to follow a certain markup that Google recommends. And there was like a slight hiccup doing the average review values and just got a penalty for that. That was like an immediate 40% decrease in traffic. Luckily, since we had a strong SEO department, we were able to fix that. So within a couple of weeks, I managed to recover.
It's quite a scary ride when you buy your first site and then all these things happen and you're like, oh my god, what do I do? Especially if you don't have experience. If you're a good entrepreneur, it's like, all right, I can turn things around. Or even if you haven't got experience and you are an entrepreneur, it's like you've got the willpower or the gusto to just make it work anyway. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are in that boat. I really like your two value adds that you mentioned before. When people join into the Bob community, they buy a website and they're like, all right, what do we do from here? So I do some strategy with them and work out, how we can add revenue, how we can do some risk minimization strategies and stuff like that, either removing risks or how we can minimize these risks. And one of the best ways to remove risks for a content site that I've noticed is supplement it with additional revenue stream and traffic stream as well. So I'm always telling people if they got full just ads on it, then go and use something like Ezoic to make sure you've got better placements and you can increase your revenue straight away, which clients have done in my community. And it's the same with if you're just doing affiliates, then maybe go away and look at getting some ads on the site to supplement that income. Also, if it's just ads and you're going through a network like AdSense, then you can certainly go directly to the advertiser or the media buyer rather than having to go through the middleman. And I know people that have negotiated better deals and getting paid more money for the advertising. For example, somebody who has not just affiliate deals with different affiliate programs, but directly through the retailers, which is cool. And same with the advertisers as well. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Another risk minimization strategy in terms of traffic sources, because we're so heavily reliant, mostly, I'm just going to say this is under the umbrella of Google. Most sites are really gaining, or content sites are really gaining most of their traffic from there, is I suggest implementing an email list and giving a really good resource, because when you take people from cold traffic to your email list, if traffic dips down, say 40%, you can still email people to come to your site and gain traffic that way. And I think that's a really good strategy. So I'm so glad that you mentioned those. What sort of did you start out at? What sort of size site did you start out? And have you slowly started to grow and buy bigger businesses? What is your portfolio kind of looking like now?
Well, most of the deals started out at around 30 to 50K mark. So buying smaller sites to begin with, got all the way up to doing deals at 150 and 200K mark. The goal behind that was to keep, it wasn't a big hedge investment fund that we were able to buy 7-figure sites. There was enough but to kind of diversify and exactly like you said now, pick sites that are different niches and with slightly different monetization strategies. what I've found that you kind of have to figure out which type of business model works for you, whether it's e-commerce or whether it's content or whether it's FBA, and stick to that and make sure that all your education is around that topic. I mean, obviously you can create like hybrids, right? Maybe you can take a content sites and turn it into also like a membership sites or add a drop ship or an e-commerce section to it. But I think that's a bit that requires a lot of work, and that's usually more complicated. But if you focus just on one business model that you understand, like the level of your due diligence goes way up, your ability, to design growth strategy is much better. Even if you niche down within that, say you want a content site and then niche down to like a specific niche. Like you just said, you can get to know the merchants, you can find direct deals because you already did your research and you know like who's who. Affiliate programs, you already know that there are multiple affiliate programs in this space. You're not buying a site that's dependent just on one merchant, one affiliate program. And if that changes, you really don't have like a contract in place. Most of them, unfortunately, they can change we just seen Amazon change within a 7-day notice. I've had other merchant chains with, a 30-day notice, which is better, but it's still like 30 days. Now go find a way to replace all those products. So I think those are very good mitigation strategies that you've mentioned. I would just add that I think it's a great point about the email list, because like having, if you can generate a genuine list of buyers that belong to you specifically, and not the affiliate, I think that's also something that boosts your multiple way up. Even if the site is at the same revenue level, you might be looking at a 4-year multiple instead of a 3-year multiple, because that's something so rare and hard to find. So it's definitely a good approach, especially if you buy like a website with more traffic, maybe a website that monetizes more like with display ads. Those are usually like a higher volume traffic sites. And then you can find a way to start funneling those into a list.
Yeah, you just need one really good resource that's really specific to the niche that you're in, and it's going to add massive value to them. And your list will just grow mostly organically. It's not like you're having to put ads up on Facebook to grow your list. It's a content site. You've got so much traffic. If you can just funnel them to after every single post with a call to action and have it brightly displayed on your site, it's a great value add with very little work, or a one-time piece of work, which is creating that resource. And I just feel that, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? Because not many content sites doing that. Do you think people just haven't opened their eyes to that, or they're just, I feel they're so hyper focused on just traffic, and that can be also those second order consequences of that is that can be very dangerous when we're just, hyper focus is good, but also it can be very dangerous too when we can't see these external forces like algorithm changes, changing affiliate programs, advertising rates. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's exactly the point. I think most of us SEO, and I said it because I come from an SEO background, we're so focused just on organic traffic that sometimes, it's hard to open your eyes and see the other opportunities out there. We don't realize that we are targeting SEO traffic, which is great. We're getting like high volumes of traffic, but not all of that traffic is specifically relevant for us. Within that traffic, they're not all going to buy, they're not all going to use the affiliate offers. And we are forever dependent, basically 90% of the affiliate sites on like first time users. The rate of returning users is not that high. The people that can kind of like open up and understand, okay, so like we're good at SEO, but maybe we can do email, and maybe we can think about maybe like different membership options, or even just a way to increase the rate of returning users to the site, or at least have some control on the people that are reading your content. I think that's so important, and just hopefully people listen to this podcast and understand that this is a real thing and it's worth a lot to your business.
I just feel it'd be such a shame for an SEO or somebody running a content site to just focus so heavily on getting traffic to the site that they don't do their best to help that traffic or do the best they can with the traffic whilst they're on the site. And I'm not just talking about SEO strategies like better user design to decrease bounce rate, load speed, and keywords and that sort of stuff. But things like make sure your internal linking is good, which is an SEO strategy, but also things like join our Facebook group or join our email list, or, not just affiliate links, but maybe we find our best. And this is getting a bit deeper into a heavier strategy, like you mentioned, which requires more work and more effort. But maybe there is an affiliate product that just sells like bananas on your website, and you can find out a way that you can quite easily get this product developed or designed and start selling it yourself. I mean, you don't have to go through the middleman, and you can make massive margins on that. And that's just an idea. I know that I'm experimenting, or some people in my community experimenting with that sort of stuff at the moment. You're mentioning sticking to one type of site that you're doing due diligence on, and that one for you is content sites. So there's different things that you need to check throughout due diligence. A couple of things that you're well versed in is like checking backlink profile, checking out the competition, and also traffic scalability for these content sites. What are you looking for in each of those steps throughout due diligence?
For me, a content site, first and foremost, the product is the content. So the very first thing that I look at is like, so what's the quality of the content? Like who wrote the content? Like what's the level of English? Is the person writing the content specialized within this specific topic? Or is it just something like you can basically find any content writer from Upwork that can write this content? That for me is like the main way to kind of bulletproof the site from future updates, because I feel that's where the algorithm is going. In terms of backlinks, I would say my preferred backlink profile is something that hasn't been over optimized. Like ideally, almost the less links they have, the better, because for the most part, I found that so basically there are two type of people building links for content site. Like one are like SEO professionals, and then you almost see the like 300-400 referring domains for a niche website, and it's always the same type of links, and those kind of patterns can be a bit more obvious if someone from Google might be auditing the site. And then if you're lucky, you can find a site. Like I bought a site in the tech niche that the person that created it, that was his passion project. He was very tech savvy. He wrote all the content. And then the site just got, like a ton of links. Naturally, it got links from different countries just because it was like I can't specify the niche because of NDA issues. But even though it had links from like other countries, it was okay because it was within reason, and that was great. I mean, that's the best backlink profile, just a site getting a ton of like natural links.
Yeah, I'd just like to touch on that before we move on to the next one, because there's so much value in just what you said there for the listeners, is that when you have a site that has great quality content, you don't necessarily need to do backlink building. And a lot of people that do, well, let's be honest here, a lot of people that do backlink building are just going to try and get any old link to a site. It can get harder. Like there's some work in removing those links as well. So I like your idea of looking for the quality of content with minimal links. So it seems like they've created excellent quality content, but they just haven't got the links to it as yet. I like that strategy for sure. And that's something for people to understand in growth as well. I think you're probably going to be on the same boat here, Doron, is that if you're going to focus on the quality of content more so than just creating any content and chucking links to it, you're going to get better links, and you're going to have a better user experience on your site, and you're going to get ranked better anyway, without having to like try and, I guess for lack of a better term, is polish a turd with your content.
It's so much work if you buy a content with like low or medium level of copy or expertise. It's so much work to go back in and then like either rewrite that content or like write it again from scratch. It's a lot of work, time, effort, money you have to pay your own content team. So if you can avoid that, that's already a very good start, because then you kind of just have to take care of the easier aspect. It's easy building links to content that's generally good. It's so much easier. And then another thing I would just add is that I look at the anchor text of the backlink profile and basically looking for profiles that are not over optimized. Like if you see a site that, most of the links, like you'll check on Ahrefs or Majestic or like the tool of your choice, but you'll see like a lot of affiliate page type anchor text, like best lawnmowers is like 20% of the anchor text used for this site. So like run like fire. It might be working now, like this site might be ranking now, but it's an obvious, pattern. If it's not this update, it's going to be the next one or the next one. And then, like you said, you're probably going to have to disavow them anyway and build new links anyway. So then you have the work of just like fixing up old stuff. So if you can find a good product that doesn't require a lot of fixing, just requires some additional work to take it to the next level, I think those are the best type of sites.
Excellent. Yeah, that's such a great point. And so traffic scalability, this is a very interesting one that I feel that the audience is going to love. What are you looking for traffic scalability? This means to have room to grow the site and gain more traffic, right? So what are those things you're looking for in a site that has decent traffic scalability?
So two things. One is like look at the niche. So if it's an SEO site, so scalability means your ability to create new content or your ability to optimize existing content to get more traffic. So two things you want to look at. One, like how much content can you write in this niche? If it's a very specific niche, odds are it's not very scalable, right? But if some evergreen niches, you can just, like the pet space, for example, you can just pretty much keep producing content to infinity. And then the other thing I look at is, so if you're buying a site that's already highly authoritative or just like a site being lucky and is ranking for most of its top keyword, like 1 to 3, 1 to 4 positions, so there's not a lot of room to optimize that content. It can basically only go down. So you're in a constant race to keep those pages to ranking. And then you really kind of have to worry, like, when are they going to drop down a bit? And then you have to create new content to kind of mitigate that risk. But if you can find websites that most of the pages are ranking like 5 to 10, so they still have room to advance within the first page to the higher locations where the CTR is better. So like if you can get a keyword from position 7 to position 3, that's the difference in CTR is around 15%. So you can turn it from 10 clicks. If you get it to the top 3 position, that can be 50, 60, 70 clicks, or obviously depend on the keyword. But and then look for sites that have a lot of keywords from position 11 to 20, which means on the second page, because those keywords are getting basically zero traffic. If you can get them just a small push, get them to the first page, that's like a whole new traffic, abundance of traffic that you can get just by doing those small fixes. So like ideally you'll have those two things.
I love those two things, to be honest, because I would put that under one umbrella of thinking about where is there room to move in this website, both in the niche and both in creating the content. For example, if you're getting something that's so super niche down and there's no room to expand the content into other areas, then you may be buying a site that, well, like you said, evergreen is not going to be something that you can keep growing and keep scaling. You're going to get to a point where you've got no room to grow, not just in traffic, but in that niche at all. Well, obviously, there will be things that you could do and put traffic to and revitalize this content, but I suggest against buying sites that aren't evergreen, because if you're going to buy an investment, in my opinion, this is my opinion, you want to buy it for the long term and you can keep growing it and scaling over a longer period of time, because that's where the real compounding growth and income will come from, and higher multiples and all that stuff. And I love the traffic scalability of the content where it's at. If it doesn't have room to move to grow up, the only room for it to move is to grow down, like you said. So, and the more room there is to grow, the more that you can scale it, like those 11 to 20 keywords. I think that's absolutely great. So I'd love for people to remember the room to move, like, and where would that room to move be as well? Like you said, Doron, like if they're at 2 or 3, maybe they could move up a bit, but more than likely there's going to be more competition in the space that's going to allow it, the space, the bigger room for it to move into, like the natural laws, are going to be into a freer space, which is down. So that's a huge insight. Guys, we're talking about due diligence here. It's so important. And if you haven't already, go away and get my due diligence framework. I've updated it. It's 2.0. Just go to my website, download it, and learn these different things that you need to check out throughout due diligence. Doron, it's been such a good chat today on content sites. I've actually learned some great stuff myself. I'm sure everybody else has. But for somebody who's buying a first-time website or is a first-time website investor, what are like 1 to 2 things that you would tell them that you feel they should know before they get into our space?
Well, the first thing I would say is it's more work than it seems. Especially a lot of these websites are marketed as just like 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, you know. And that's true to an extent, you know, if someone has been doing it for the past 10 years and he's a professional and he's done it a lot of times before and everything is working well, the site is at the stage where it's been stable. So it's possible that it only takes a couple of hours a week, but that's not the case if you're buying your very first website. So especially when things go wrong, like my first site, things went wrong, there's a lot of work that you have to invest. So just have that mindset that you're going to have to invest the time regardless of what that listing says. Especially if you're thinking about growing the site, it's not the same amount of work as just maintaining it in its current revenue level. And then my second advice would be kind of as a follow-up to what we've discussed a bit earlier is just like keep focused on one space you feel comfortable with, on one business model. Even if within that business model, you can even niche down to like a specific niche that you feel like you know more about. Like you'll be able to kind of review your content writers or the people working for you because you're very familiar with the space, you know the terminology, you know the type of users, because maybe that's also like a hobby of yours. I think that's a really big advantage, and it's also going to make working on this site, you know, a lot more fun.
Yeah, awesome. I like the idea that you mentioned firstly is that there is more work than you may think. People have their processes and systems down. They've been doing it for so long. And it's kind of a double-edged sword that when you first get in, it can take you a lot of work. But as you first start with your first website, I was doing a lot of work as well with my first couple of websites, to be honest. But on the other side of the sword is I was sharpening that sword and I was just sharpening my skills and getting better and better. So yes, like you said, there's work required. It's not something, passive income isn't so passive. Like we've got to do some work for it, right, Doron? And then if you're prepared to put in the work, then you're just going to get better and you're going to become a better investor as well. So don't come into this space thinking it's a free ride. So that's a really good one. Doron, thank you so much for jumping on board. Where can people find more about you, what you're doing? Yeah, check out your stuff.
Yeah, so you can hop on to my LinkedIn page. We're also working on a new company website. So that's going to be available at cleavers.com in a couple of weeks. Then they can come in, see the work we're doing, the brands we have. Always love to have questions. So if anyone has any question, can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks so much. For everybody that is listening, thank you for listening. Also, please go away and do not only myself and yourself a massive favor, but everybody that hasn't listened to this podcast and may be interested in this space, do us all a favor and go away, subscribe, and leave a review letting us know what you liked about the show, what you liked about the topic, and what you liked about the guest, so I can bring more awesome guests and topic to the show and reach more people to help them not make bad mistakes when they're website investing. Thanks again, guys, and I'll speak to you on the next one.